The galaxy of the 41st millennium is a place where the future is dark and uncertain. Here, in an age of endless war, civilizations do not advance, they endure, stagnate, or fall. The Necrontyr, shedding flesh and leaving death for lesser creatures, dreamed of a future free from fear and of kingdoms that would never die, now entombed in their own bodies of living metal, with minds fragmented and shackled. They exist in a struggle to regain power and glories that died at the foot of their biofurnaces 60 million years ago. The Eldar, proud and ancient, cling desperately to the remnants of their shattered empire as well, living aboard continental-sized ships containing the souls of their dead, walking a razor's edge between decadence and discipline, terrified of what awaits them all should they slip. Their every step is haunted by the weight of what they've lost and the fear of losing what very little remains. Even humanity, with their divine right to conquer the galaxy, find themselves chained to the corpse of their emperor's dream. 10,000 years of stagnation and failing technology have left the Imperium crumbling, its people surviving only through ragged dogma and fanatical devotion, never daring to imagine a future beyond this enforced tradition, for blessed is the mind too small for doubt. There are many such stories amongst the countless denizens that call the Milky Way home. Once, they stood at the heart of empires and coalitions that stretched across the stars. Once, their banners flew over countless worlds. Once, their voices dictating the course of history. But now, they carry the wreckage of that past like chains, clutching at the hollow symbols of their former greatness. In each of these stories echo the words of Ozymandias: "Look upon my works, ye mighty, and despair." In such a galaxy, change itself is a rarity. To adapt, to grow, to become something new, these are things that most races have forgotten or fear to embrace. And then there are the Kroot. Deep in the eastern fringe of the galaxy lies Pesh, a living crucible, a verdant inferno. This isn't some barren rock or toxic hellscape like so many planets native to the 41st millennium. Pesh is a primal symphony of life, a jungle dominion that birthed one of the galaxy's most enigmatic predators. But to understand the Kroot, who they are not just as hunters, but as a people forged in the fires of adaptation, we have to start here on their homeworld. So let's peel back the layers, from its sweltering climate that breeds endless life and death, to its labyrinthine geography that turns every step into a trial. And finally, the fascinating ecology that twisted some simple avian scavengers into the shape-shifting warriors that populate the galaxy we know today. Pesh isn't the kind of mothering planet humanity knew in its infancy. It's a monster in its own right, and the Kroot are its masterpiece. Pesh's breath is humid and unyielding, coating all in its embrace with a thick layer of precipitation. It orbits a stable star in the Ultima Segmentum sector by the Damocles Gulf, not far from the Tau homeworld of Tau. Pesh is warm and temperate year-round, with average temperatures being hot enough to make your skin slick with sweat. Rainfall is relentless, a perpetual drizzle that can erupt into monsoon fury, dumping meters of water in days and turning the air into a thick soup of mist as the sheets of rainfall blanket the planet's surface. The oppressive humidity fosters a greenhouse effect where the fog clings to everything, blurring the line between land and sky. Seasons are barely existent, with Pesh's axial tilt so minimal that its winters are just slightly cooler rains, while its summers amp up the heat, spiking evaporation and creating steam vents from geothermal pockets hidden in the undergrowth. This isn't a climate that invites settlement. It, much like the rest of the planet, simply tests endurance. Geographically, Pesh is a tangled masterpiece of verticality and sprawl, divided into 3 main continental masses that cross its surface like jagged scars of green flesh. The largest, a vast supercontinent dominating the equatorial belt, is a warm and temperate expanse Imperial scholars describe as almost entirely covered in forests of great trees, beneath whose canopy the Kroot dwell. The lesser continents orbit it with small islands scattered in between, drawn to it like ravens to a great carrion. Where the forest breaks and the canopy recedes, the land bears its harsher face. Rocky plateaus stretch into the haze, their surfaces split by jagged fissures worn smooth by centuries of unrelenting wind. These places are parched despite the humidity, the soil thin and stubborn, offering little to no purchase for roots. Only lichen and the hardiest shrubs can exist here. Storms sweep across them with unchecked fury, sheets of rain driven sideways by the gales that howl like living things, scouring stone and flesh alike. Lightning stalks the horizon, striking with such violence that it leaves glassy scars embedded in the rock. To wander here is to feel exposed, stripped of the forest's suffocating embrace, but left instead beneath a sky that punishes with its own cruelty. Few creatures linger in these open places. They are not havens, but scars. Reminders that Pesh is never kind, only relentless. Moving to the arboreal section of this world, its expansive forests are dominated by the jaga tree, colossal evergreen pillars that thrust skyward until their crowns weave into a single matted roof, a canopy so thick it blots out sunlight. To stand beneath them is to step into perpetual twilight, where daylight filters down only in fractured beams of emerald shafts that shimmer against the mist before dissolving into the shadows. These giants reach hundreds of meters or more, and are often as thick as imperial hab blocks, with roots piercing the earth, forming into archways and hollowed caverns that echo with the chitter of unseen things. This is what it is to be on Pesh. The air clings like a second skin, humid and unrelenting, pressing in on the lungs with every breath. The canopy murmurs ceaselessly, 1,000 layered sounds blending into a chorus. Insects droning in thick clouds, the shrill cries of distant Kroot hawks, the sudden crash of something vast and moving through the underbrush. To an off-worlder, it is overwhelming, an indecipherable chaos, but to the Kroot, it is a memory and a map. Every note, a signal of what hunts, what flees, and what dies. There is always the sense of being watched. The mist curls between the trunks like a living thing, wrapping close and obscuring, only to part and reveal the impression of movement. A shadow that may be nothing, or may be jaws poised in silence. The forest floor is no sanctuary. It is a proving ground, a place where hesitation is fatal, where life survives not by strength, but by constant adaptation. And yet, for all its hostility, there is an undeniable majesty in the jaga groves. A cathedral of living wood, built upon twisting columns of rot and earth, older than memory, stretching skyward, forever reaching. While the mists of time obscure the precise details of early life on Pesh, the Hearthworld's ancient ecology can be glimpsed through the rare surviving offshoots of its evolutionary tree. Creatures like the lumbering Krootox, screeching Kroot hounds, and majestic Kroot hawks that still roam its jungles today. These surviving ancestors hint at a primordial food chain teeming with a variety of predators, swift pack hunters, colossal herbivores, and even large carnivores similar to the theropods of ancient Terra. It is from this savage cradle that the Kroot themselves emerge. Towering at 7 feet or more, the Kroot cut an imposing silhouette that belies their strength and hardiness. Their lithe frames feature a dense, tightly corded musculature wrapped in rough, leathery skin, potted with small quills and often etched with ritual scars. The Kroot's avian roots run deep. Hollow bones, granting them uncanny agility, allow them to leap through dense jungles from tree to tree, similar to arboreal primates. While on the ground, they move with bounding, hopping gaits. In dense forests, they can spring from tree to tree at great speed. Their unique 4-digit hands and feet are tipped with claw-like talons, allowing them to grip into the bark or their prey with ease. The hallmark of their avian ancestry, a vestigial yet powerful beak. This wide prognathous beak features a sharp hooked edge, perfect for shearing through flesh and bone. The unique shape of which allows for a Kroot to carry large amounts of food in its mouth while climbing or leaping, keeping its head perfectly level as to not drop any precious food. But survival on Pesh demands more than just grace. It requires senses honed to a razor's edge. Sprouting from the back of their skulls is a crest of quills that extend and rattle like a living radar. These quills are interlaced with ganglia that extend from the frontal lobes of the brain, allowing the Kroot to gather and process environmental data with remarkable efficiency, detecting even minute changes in the environment, and in some instances, even the warp. Within the skull, the olfactory cavity is unusually large, housing a variety of specialized sense organs both in the nasal passage and within the mouth. Their eyes, lacking visible pupils and often appearing milky white, suggest adaptations beyond the human visual spectrum. It is probable that they perceive infrared wavelengths, allowing them to detect body heat of other organisms. A study performed by the imperial genitors of the Adeptus Biologus was taken to understand the inner workings of the Kroot's brain. Unlike that of a human, a Kroot's brain is separated by a dominant frontal hemisphere, thought to control the functions of logic, reasoning, and memory, and a nascent rear hemisphere, more attuned to imagination and creativity. If this study is indeed correct, then it could be an indicator of the origin of the Kroot's pragmatic approach to life, and the development of their species. Taken together, these adaptations provide the Kroot with an extraordinary ability to track, perceive, and respond to their environment, making them hunters of formidable precision, and prey that is nearly impossible to approach unnoticed. Yet, the Kroot's true evolutionary edge lies hidden within. Biology built around devouring not just for sustenance, but for transformation. Their digestive system is a marvel of efficiency, with strong evidence of having developed unique chemical filters and a renal system analog. While the Kroot lack urinary or defecatory outlets, it is understood that all waste byproducts are released via regurgitation or an acrid sweat emission that cover their skin known as musk. No waste is squandered. Everything is repurposed as a byproduct of their meals and are often mixed with processed wood pulp to build their towering tree hives, binding these structures to the side of jagged trees in large communities. This complex diet system sustains them through famines or void travels, storing energy in nodal reservoirs like biological batteries. At the core of this apparatus beats the system that defines Kroot kind, a highly developed enteric nervous system embedded in the gut, with nerves wired directly to the cognitive parts of the Kroot's brain. While appearing distinct from the digestive tract, it utilizes non-blood-carrying capillaries hooked to nodular organs and specialized pathways, one rising to the brain through the spine, the other descending to the reproductive gamete pouch, with the organ's tissue closely analogous with a subject's neural lobes. Twin neural tubules suggest that this organ has the ability to affect the subject's conscious behavior and the development of its reproductive gametes. The conclusion: a subconscious secondary brain entirely focused on digestion. This secondary brain turns every meal into a genetic heist, absorbing what the Kroot refer to as insights that rewrite the consumer's genetic profile to pass on to future generations. These insights can vary from stolen memories and the ability to absorb language skills, all the way to a sort of conscious evolution in which the Kroot subsume the characteristics of their prey. Feast on agile flyers and your limbs grow sleeker. Gorge on armored foes and your hide thickens. This genetic fluidity births the Kroot's vast diaspora of variations and gives us Pesh in its current state, a planet whose various ecological niches are populated 90% by the Kroot. We can only guess as to what pressures gave rise to this ability. Most Imperial scholars believe it to be a case of hypercompetition, with thousands of species competing. A generalist with the ability to sample adaptive traits would have an edge, colonizing rapidly changing niches. Like a virus host, ancient Kroot could have evolved a sort of immune genetic hybrid system, turning random genetic infections into a controlled adaptive mechanism, with a process that would be taxing, taking a huge metabolic toll, but in exchange giving the Kroot the ability to adapt to any given situation possible. But this gift bears shadows. Unchecked hunger breeds monstrosities. You see, the often mismanaged quote of survival of the fittest does not mean the most powerful, but instead the best adapted to reproduce. As such, the Kroot walk a fine line between having a meal and over-specialization. Overconsumption on more bestial creatures lead to a mental de-evolution, and so a grim solution was developed: cannibalism. What outsiders decry as barbaric cannibalism is, for these avian warriors, a profound symbiosis of body and belief, deeply rooted in their evolutionary core. Selective feeding was the key to maintaining sapience and genetic integrity. To glut on the wrong prey risked de-evolution, twisting lineages into brutish dead ends and eroding intellect alongside diversity in a simple, misguided meal. Over untold millennia, however, this survival tactic transcended mere necessity, weaving itself into the very fabric of Kroot cultural and core beliefs, a living creed of adaptation through ingestion. Elaborate rituals emerged, transforming feasts into ceremonies of honor and growth. It's a profound worldview, where every bite defies stagnation and embraces the galaxy's uncertain destiny. In their eyes, to waste the slain is the true abomination, a squandering of potential that would otherwise strengthen their people. However, not every path leads to ascension. Some branches wither into dead ends. Over-specialization, offshoots, locked in forms that sacrifice intellect for brutish utility. They serve as warnings against dietary complacency. As rogue trader Yanis Drake observed in his accounts from the Blackstone Fortress,
"Some evolutionary branches wither while others thrive. He speaks of Krootox as though they are a cautionary tale, illustrating the dangers of diets that consist only of simple-minded bestial creatures."
Despite this, these kin beasts are bound to their Kroot handlers through ancestral ties and instinctual loyalty. Handlers communicate via a symphony of clicks and whistles and quill rattles, a primal language that echoes their shared avian heritage, allowing them seamless coordination in the hunt or on the battlefield. Foremost amongst these are the Krootoks, hulking gorilla-like brutes born from consuming unintelligent prey, their minds reduced to base instincts while their bodies swell with raw power and musculature, towering with rounded shoulders and piston-like forearms that hammer the ground as they charge into the fray. These non-sapient giants pummel foes into the dirt with their bare fists, their resilient hide able to shrug off small arms fire. Yet their dim-witted nature leaves them vulnerable to simple ruses and traps, leaving them reliant on a Kroot rider, who bonds with them through shared feasts and genetic echoes. Handlers are often perched between their shoulders, guiding the beast with whistles and quill vibrations that resonate with the beast's sensory spines, forging a pact-like unity where the Krootoks' fury amplifies a kindred's assault. These lumbering brutes are used as beasts of burden in day-to-day tasks or as enormous war mounts for battle. Juvenile Krootoks are belligerent and boastful, but make for effective shock troops that mellow with age to later be used as large weapon batteries. Swift and savage counterparts emerge in the Kroot hounds, quadrupedal avian canine hybrids devolved into pure predators, their intelligence exchanged for vicious instinct. Roughly the size of large dogs, they sport brutal beaks, crested spines, and quills that twitch as sensory alarms. These hounds streak across difficult terrain in tight-knit packs, emitting blood-curdling screeches that shatter enemy morale, while talons and jaws rend their foes apart. Bonding occurs through pack dynamics, with high-ranked Kroot handlers often referred to as shapers. Integrated into their pack dynamics through mimicry of their howls and clicks, the hounds treat their handlers as extended kindred in hunts, where shared sense and vibrational cues create an instinctive collective, turning the hounds into a vanguard scout force or relentless trackers that heed whistled summons without question. The Narlock is a living relic of Pesh's primordial past. Beginning life as small pack hunters, they grow into imposing solitary predators. Standing several meters at the shoulder, their frames are a mass of sinew and bone driven by powerful hind legs built for fast-paced pursuits. An elongated neck ends in a broad, jagged beak made of keratin and crushing muscle, capable of snapping bone or shearing through metal. Their hides are thick and leathery, mottled in greens and browns that blend well against the dense foliage. Bristling quills crown their backs and shoulders, while shorter forelimbs end in hooked talons used to rake prey or anchor their bulk as they tear flesh apart. Each step lands heavy, reverberating through the forest floor, yet when provoked, the Narlock can unleash terrifying bursts of speed, charging with a near unstoppable force. As they age, Narlocks shift to occupying a different niche, from pack hunters into solitary apex predators. While a part of a pack, they roam over vast stretches of forest in pursuit of prey, before finally claiming territories of their own. These elder beasts mark their domain with deep, guttural ultrasonic bellows that resonate through the ground itself. To those within range, the sound is not merely heard, but felt in the marrow of their bones, a warning of presence and power that few would dare challenge. Dim of wit, but guided by brutal instinct, they are creatures that live to feed. Once roused to bloodlust, a greater Narlock thrashes in frenzied violence until either it or its prey lies broken. Among the kindred, they are treated as honored war beasts, bound in ceremonial harnesses and crude armor, but never fully tamed. A great Narlock in battle is not a mount, it is a force of nature, its rider merely steering the avalanche of muscle and fury beneath them before calming the beast by sating its immense appetite. High above these grounded kin soar the Krootoks, a majestic aerial predator from Pesh's skies, not true dead ends, but revered ancestors whose powerful, fast-moving forms settle for carrion when fresh kills elude them. The term Kroot hawk appears to cover a whole family of raptors, originating from the nest world. Powerful and fast-moving, they are held to be the Kroot's true progenitors, these birds bonding with them through ritualistic reverence as warriors will cultivate them as scouts or companions, communicating with them through intricate whistles and clicks that mimic their cries. Many Kroot see this as fostering a spiritual link, a way to communicate with what was, with what is. Yet, these are only the kin beast we know, the ones that have journeyed beyond Pesh's reach. There are whispers of others, the elusive 12 legs, some kind of skittering scavenger, the burrowing Kroot worms, serpentine diggers with acidic maws churning beneath the undergrowth. And there are the calamandras, not native to Pesh at all, but to the swamp world of Chatta nearby. Amphibian mounts with frilled gills and hides that come alive with chromatophores. Shifting the pigment of their flesh to better camouflage themselves, they can sprint, climb, and vanish into their surroundings at will. Although alien to Pesh's soil, it is unconfirmed if they are of the Kroot genus at all. But this is paid little to no mind, however, as the Kroot have made them their own regardless, another swift and silent companion in their hunts. In the shifting jungles of Pesh, survival is never a certainty. Every creature is both predator and prey. Every meal, a gamble between strength and ruin. For the Kroot, this balance has forged not merely a species, but a way of life where change is the only constant. But their story does not end under the canopy of their homeworld. From these roots, the kindred spread outwards, carrying with them not just flesh and blood, but an ideology. To understand the Kroot is to not only study their ecology, but to understand how adaptation itself became a creed. That, however, is a story for the next chapter.